Once again, Sonic was in a troubled spot in the lead up to Frontiers. Generations was critically acclaimed, Lost World's mixed reception, followed by the disappointment that was Forces, both in story and gameplay. Not to mention the whole Sonic Boom incident, the game specifically, the show was pretty good. This meant that people were once again doubting Sonic's team's ability to make an enjoyable Sonic title, and the pre-release footage didn't really help, pretty much showing only Sonic wandering around a seemingly empty plane, and to be fair, it did have very Sega Hire this man energy. However, once people actually got their hands on it, they found a lot to like, so let's get into it and see what Sonic Frontiers has to offer. For this video, I'll be covering what the main game contains first, and then discuss the added content after. The game begins with Eggman attempting to harness the technology of newly introduced beings, the Ancients, only for it to go wrong, immediately moving on to Sonic and crew looking for the Chaos Emeralds on the setting of the game, the Starfall Islands. And just a few seconds later, we're plopped into Green Hill Zone. Yippee! Sonic soon wakes up, separated from Amy and Tails, with a voice telling him he's escaped a realm known as cyberspace, giving very vague instructions on his next steps. I think the first thing of note here is Sonic's voice direction. It's the same VA, Roger Craig Smith, reprising his role since Sonic Colors, but for this entry he's gone with a much deeper tone of voice, and some people have said it's unfitting, but I personally really like it. He feels older and more mature, and it makes Frontiers feel like it is the latest game in the timeline. It's Sonic and is a bit older. Pretty soon we find our first Guardian. These are essentially mini-bosses, this one being Mr. Tyler Blevins himself. This specific section serves as the tutorial. We've got little puzzles dotted around the island to complete, giving Sonic rewards such as new moves and upgrades, since we have a more fleshed out combat system as opposed to just homing attacks. The stomp and bounce return, as does the boost, although its speed has been greatly reduced. It feels more like a run button, like from Sonic Lost World, than the boost of Unleashed or Generations, for example. Sonic does possess new skills though, the main one being the Psy Loop. By pressing triangle and moving around an object, it causes a unique interaction in the environment, and Sonic also has a very overpowered parry. Timing just doesn't matter at all, and if you do it before you hit the ground, you can just outright negate any damage. By the next pillar, the gameplay loop starts to properly present itself. You explore the island and complete challenges to unlock more of the map, beat mini-bosses to collect gears to open more cyberspace stages, so you can collect keys to get the Chaos Emeralds. I suppose you can break the game down into two sections, the open zone gameplay as the developers call it, and the cyberspace levels, more traditional platforming levels. And it can be a little bit difficult to mentally switch between the styles since they control quite differently when you start out, as Sonic in cyberspace does feel quite a bit more rigid as compared to the more free-flow feeling of the islands, but it is something that you do eventually get used to. We soon see what some of the cast is up to. Eggman is clearly trapped in cyberspace as well as Amy, however collecting enough of these hearts can free the latter partially. As we collect more emeralds, we come across a giant monster called a Titan and a new antagonist named Sage, a young girl who will only tell Sonic to leave and not elaborate, commanding the Titan to attack, absolutely wiping the floor with the hedgehog.
Nice shot!
Over the course of the game, you get these small missions to do with another new species, the Coco. These cute little stone fellas that really remind me of the Koroks from Zelda and also kind of the Chow, which the latter was very much intentional, as we'll discuss later. I really enjoy that the game gives you little direction, to be honest. It'll give you the next target to progress the story, sure, but what you do is completely up to the player. Sonic genuinely suits the open world format very well in my opinion. Someone so fast being able to cover so much ground, having the world acting as more or less a playground for the player, it's very neat, it's very freeing. And something that we've never seen before that I feel is covered quite well here is how Sonic and Amy have a genuine bit of interpersonal conflict in the story. They both want to help, however Sonic is placing priority on his friends and Amy on the immediate issues with the nearby Coco. Both of them are coming from good places, and the fact they can work it out pretty quickly and it doesn't affect their friendship majorly is something that I like a lot. It's realistic. Friends can have falling out and disagreements on things, but it doesn't mean they instantly stop being friends or it's something to get hung up on. Damn, there's real, genuine dynamics in my Fast Hedgehog game. What the hell? By the time we find Amy again, she talks about wanting to share her love with the world, quote unquote. I get what they're going for, trying to pivot Amy's whole love dynamic to be a more general thing than just against Sonic specifically, but when hasn't Amy done this? She's consistently been shown winning others over via her kindness. Take Gamma in Sonic Adventure 1 and Shadow at the end of SA2, for example. You know what isn't kind? This laser puzzle. It's quite possibly one of the hardest things in this game. Before I take on the Titan though, I'm gonna clear the outstanding missions around the island. You might have seen me stumble across some purple coins in my gameplay footage, and the reason you want to collect these is for the purple portals. This is a dedicated spot to chill with Big the Cat. You catch fish, and you get tokens that you can exchange with him, and these have the potential to absolutely break the game. However, I'm not going to use them for that, rather for some unique prizes I'll talk about later, but I gotta say, I love this feature. The combination of realistic sea life and wacky items you can find, plus the absolutely elite soundtrack, it is all insanely charming, and I genuinely feel like the game would be less without these sections. After the release of Frontiers, the devs added free updates to put more content into the game. Some of these include a photo mode and, more importantly for me, a jukebox. You start with a few songs already, being the Sonic Frontiers main theme, I'm Here, Angel Island Zone, Mystic Ruin from SA1, Sonic Heroes, Seaside Hill, Wave Ocean, Sand Oasis from Secret Rings, Deep Woods from Black Knight, Emerald Coast, Windy Hill, Mirage Saloon Act 2, Arsenal Pyramid, and Reach for the Stars. However, there's music notes dotted all over the island, and collecting them adds new selectable songs to the jukebox. We've got these timer markers called Action Chain Challenges as well, which were introduced in Update 2, being small timed events where you have to perform as much cool shit as possible to build up the high score, and the theme that they use is pretty sweet, I do like it. The collectible songs here include Windmill Isle Day, Planet Wisp, Kingdom Valley, Fist Bump, Ocean Palace, Wonderworld, Stardust Speedway's mix from Mania, Sky Sanctuary's modern mix from Generations, and the music pieces of the current island named Kronos. Every once in a while, these Comet Shower events can occur too, giving you a limited amount of time to collect these Starbit looking things for extra cocoa, purple coins and the like, but these are toggleable to switch on and off from the menu. I want to go over the cyberspace stages individually before we move on. In universe, cyberspace is data made up of memories created by the ancients, so the stages takes cues from levels that Sonic has ran through in the past, explaining both the familiar environment and the repeated level designs from previous entries. 1-1 is taken from the tutorial of Sonic Unleashed, and whilst nothing special there, the slower pace just makes this intentionally simple level more boring. 1-2 takes portions of the first proper level in Windmill Isle, the environment being Modern Sky Sanctuary from Generations this time. This level is particularly infamous, being one of the hardest to S-rank thanks to the strict timing. This isn't a criticism though, I really like the challenge and I wish more levels took cues from this one. Plus, it helps if you're going to repeat a stage, the theme is an absolute banger. 1-3 seems to be original, taking place in this digital cityscape. Quite a fan of this theming, to be honest. It's more 2D focused, but I personally don't mind this one, I think it's fine. 1-4 is based on modern Sonic's Green Hill and Generations, complete with the Green Hill theming. It's one of the things where Frontiers doesn't lend itself well with direct comparison, what with the slower, stiffer movement that I mentioned before. Where I feel like Unleashed and Generations don't suffer from this particular issue. At least the theme is a banger though. 1-5 is based on modern chemical plant from Generations, the same environment included, and I feel mostly the same as the earlier level, but the switching paths on the fly does feel smoother in Frontiers to me. We've now seen all the environmental themes. There'll only be Green Hill, Chemical Plant, Sky Sanctuary, and the Digital City, and I feel like the repeated visuals adds to the fatigue that can set in from these stages. If Sonic Team created slightly more abstract, digital-esque versions of the actual level environments they're taking gameplay cues from, this would go a long way to endear players to these returning levels in my opinion. Moving on to 1-6, this is taken from Green Hill Act 1, and this has got to be my least favourite so far. It's just nothing we haven't seen before. A lot. Like a lot we've seen before. And ending on 1-7, this takes from City Escape from Sonic Adventure 2, and this is something I'm a big fan of. I actually really enjoy seeing the Adventure era level designs recreated for boost gameplay. This is adding something new from old ideas, and I really think they should have honed in on this in order to avoid unfavourable comparison to the older boost games. Okay, one more detour before the boss, I pinky promise. Also added an update to Island Cocos, these big versions of Cocos wearing funky hats that require some genuinely challenging platforming in order to acquire them. I believe they're intended for the post-game, but I'm gonna collect the ones on Chronos now because, you know, I'm an epic gamer like that. And with that out of the way, we can now proceed to the Titan, Giganto. The final Chaos Emerald is located at the top of his head, and after a quick dash to grab it, just watch. We've got Supersonic already on top of this absolutely incredible tune, Undefeatable, sung by Kellen Quinn of Sleeping with Sirens fame. Supersonic plays very closely to his normal counterpart combat-wise, just with everything ramped up to 11, and in a word, peak. The Titan battles of Frontiers aren't anything ultra complex, but the presentation, the fun gameplay, it's a highlight of Sonic Frontiers, to be quite honest. With Giganto dispatched, Sonic gets a vision of the beings we saw earlier before heading to the next island, Ares. Amy's still in this corrupted form, so figuring he has to destroy all of the Titans to free his friends, he moves on, but he's near instantly taken out of his super form, so it's off to explore and collect items, including the Chaos Emeralds, just like we did on Chronos. Unlike the lush, foresty Chronos, Ares is a desert, and who do we find here? None other than Knuckles, although he wasn't shown with Tails and Amy.
Some rescue. I'm still half ghost. I'm working on it, okay?
Go work on it. Do you realize something? Let me tell you.
He's made his way to the Starfall Islands on his own, shown in a prequel animation named Divergence, where Knuckles finds a portal to the islands whilst exploring his Angel Island. Sonic has been doing these tie-in pieces with their main releases quite regularly these past few years. Frontiers had a prequel comic too, Forces had the Rise of Infinite comic that are, in my opinion, alright, not great but not terrible, and a little animation with Metal Sonic for Colors Ultimate. Knuckles brings up a good point in one of his interactions with Sonic. Why does he only hear the voice when all the cast are experiencing cyberspace? We've got no answer for the time being though. A new island does mean new Titan and Guardians, and we get a sneak peek of Wyvern, and I like that Sonic's learned not to bother even trying to fight them when he's not in his super form, we just have to run away. And we can spot it hovering around in the sky, which is a cool bit of setup. Whilst I like all the Guardians and Chronos bar Squid, Ares is a bit of a mixed bag for me. It features the worst one in my view, Shark, and some I quite like, such as Strider and Sumo. Knuckles' connection with the Coco revolves around him finding a small troop and the defences they prepared against an unseen threat, although it was to no avail, explaining the metal tokens we collect to interact with him more. Linking him both with his time as a general in Forces and his roots as the Guardian of the Master Emerald. You could probably gather what the Coco are at this point, but I'll say it directly. They act as a shell, so to speak, for the Ancients' soul, reenacting their actions before death, which is why they stop moving when the memory you see completes. I enjoy that Ares has some more involved platforming for some of the Chaos Emerald pillars, but honestly I feel like the game could do more of it. Like, I want more of these platforming challenges for the Chaos Emeralds. Sonic and Knuckles have this little moment that I adore, Sonic trying to find words to comfort him, but just sits with him for a bit while Knuckles opens up about how the Coco remind him of what happened to the Echidnas, with Sonic reminding him that himself and the others are gonna be there for him. They really hone in on this brotherly / friendly rivalry the two used to have, taking good-natured little jabs at each other, and I'm a big fan. I hope they keep this up for future releases. Alright, let's wrap up the collectibles before we move on. A new island also means a new purple portal with its own fish to catch, and now I've gotten them all, I want to talk about my favourite thing to exchange the tokens for, the Egg Memos. These are voice logs created by Eggman while he's trapped in cyberspace, with a lot of them more focused on background lore, like the full reveal that the Ancients had evolved to become the Chao that we know today, explaining why Chaos from Sonic Adventure looks the way he does since he's a mutated Chao, thoughts on the current situation and his growing fondness of Sage, even some reasoning as to why he is the way he is, due to him feeling neglected growing up, partly for the attention his cousin Maria received. It honestly adds a lot of depth to him as a character. Ares has its own set of music tracks to get to, including Desert Ruins Zone 1 from Lost World, Arid Sands Day from Unleashed, This Is Our World Phase 2 from Forces, Dusty Desert, Mushroom Hill Zone, Dry Lagoon, Savannah Citadel Day, the title screen theme from Colors, and of course the music for Ares Island itself. Plus we've got the Big Coco, and they were far easier to get than on Chronos for some reason to me. Time for the cyberspace levels before the Titan. 2-1 takes the 2D chunks from Modern Green Hill from Gens, and it's alright. The theme is nicer than I remember, but I can't say anything about it one way or the other, it's just kinda there for me really. 2-2 does something new. It takes from a DLC level of Dragon Road from Sonic Unleashed. It's quick, but it's fun. It gives you a lot of freedom for exploits and level skips, which I like. 2-3's design is completely original, a 2D level that focuses in on those switches that either take you upwards or straight ahead, and it has a nice sense of flow to it. 2-4 is Radical Highway, and spoiler, we as fans are gonna see this place on the reg going forward. Wait a sec. What the fuck is Sonic doing in Radical Highway? That's Shadow's level. Oh yeah, it was in Generations 3DS. Alright, but I'm watching you, Sonic Team, you're on thin ice. I did quite enjoy it, but it has a feeling of ending as it was getting its footing. 2-5 takes from 2D Modern Sky Sanctuary, and I found this one to be a bit tricky to be honest. Nothing crazy, but I found myself accidentally going onto a lower path or bumping into things more than usual, but the theme goes hard, I love it. 2-6 is Sky Rail? Alright, I'm calling bullshit. This is a shadow-only stage. Sonic has never been seen here. What the hell? If I'm going to be super generous, it could be a homage to the commonly speculated idea that this was originally a Sonic level before they decided Shadow was going to be playable in SA2's development, but they're lucky. This is probably my favourite cyberspace level so far. The theme is banging, and the sheer scale and sense of freedom is completely unmatched. It's honestly great stuff. Finally, 2-7 is classic gen Sky Sanctuary, and I enjoy it a lot more than the modern 2D counterpart. It feels more action-packed and more involved for me. Now we take the fight to Wyvern. We have to scale up this tower to climb onto it for the final Chaos Emerald, but it's not that easy, having to complete what I can only describe as an energy obstacle course before we can catch up and begin the battle. This one is definitely more parry focused, the best strategy being to parry the rockets to get to damaging the boss faster and letting him try to swipe with its claws so you can move in to damage it. I do prefer Giganto, but this fight still has its charm, and the theme, Breakthrough It All, is keeping up with the elite boss themes. Still, it's a fantastic conclusion to the island, even if I like the previous Titan a bit more. With Wyvern taken care of and some encouragement from Knuckles, Sonic moves on to the next area, Chaos Island. This place has a volcano/mountainy type of terrain, and one thing I find Frontiers is a bit lacking on is the skill tree. It's extremely easy to get all of your abilities just from normal gameplay and minimal exploration. I got it maxed out about halfway into Ares, so it's been just kind of useless getting XP for a while. Tails is the pal for this island, and it's clear the cyber corruption that's been building up over the game is causing Sonic intense pain at this point, to the point even Sage feels sorry for him. And you can even see it in his idle animation here. Like, over the course of the game, his idle animation shows that he's just been getting more and more ragged. Chaos Island is weird to me, because on one hand, it's probably the most free-flowing of the islands. You can do some crazy skips in 3D, and it feels really rewarding. But on the other hand, it forces you into 2D sections the most out of all of the islands by far, and it can get really aggravating when you can't break out and it leads you to somewhere you don't want to be in. Tails and Sonic come across a broken Death Egg robot, and you use its laser to open up a path forward via hacking, making you play a little shooter minigame where L1 turns you light and R1 turns you dark, and the corresponding bullets won't hurt you. I can tell someone at Sonic Team has played and enjoyed Nier Automata. And this bit here genuinely made me laugh.
What is your end goal?
It varies. Sometimes it's a spinning sign, sometimes it's a big old ring.
No.
I've heard some complaints over the writing in this section. People have complained about the writing in general in this game, but this section in particular. And yeah, this island is definitely the most referencey, for lack of a better term, but if I had to choose between what we had in Lost World and Forces and trying to, albeit somewhat clumsily, attach Frontiers to series history by mentioning past events, I'd take this any day. I think overall Ian Flynn, who is a writer on the Sonic comics and was a writer on this game, the first Sonic game he was a writer on, did a good job overall. Tails' segment has had some backlash too, but I think it was handled pretty well. It puts his character back on course from the weird lapse he had in Forces in a way that makes sense. He is still a kid, it's only natural he's gonna stumble from time to time. It doesn't make him any less competent though.
Deadly Six's trap.
Also, I don't think his interaction with Sage here is out of character. He obviously doesn't believe in Sonic from just hard data. He's talking to an AI and he's well aware of that, so he's gonna put it in a more understandable way to the AI. It culminates into Tails deciding he needs to go on an adventure on his own for a bit, with Sonic proud of how much he's grown. It's a nice moment, and Sage starting to become disheartened feels earned, and then they completely ruin it in a few seconds with this song, which sounds like, I'm not exaggerating, someone let their toddler hum the theme as a placeholder and they just left it in. It is truly awful. Also, why are they showing flashbacks to something that happened, like, less than half an hour ago, tops? Ah yes, remember the time Sage crushed a bunch of digital helicopters? Lovely, what a heartfelt scene. Like the last two, we need to do a unique minigame to open up the path to the Titan, and this time it's pinball, where we have to get a quite frankly offensive amount of points to progress. I know the red rings up the score multiplier, but it is still a mental number it wants you to do. We've got our collectibles roundup, and a quick shout out to the Island Coco who has Caliburn on his back, a very cute Black Knight reference, I'm a big fan. The music tracks here are the title screen theme from Sonic Unleashed, Sky Road Zone 2 from Lost World, the music for Chaos Island of course, Aqua Road from Forces, Red Mountain from SA1, Asteroid Coaster from Colors, Live and Learn, Lava Reef Zones remix from Mania. Interestingly, I think this specific song is a new mix, and it combines classic and modern Speed Highway from Generations. You know the crack by now, it's cyberspace time. 3-1 is based off of Green Forest from Adventure 2, and it feels like it retains the sense of freedom that the original does, with a banging tune to boot. 3-2 is from Savannah Citadel's 2D section in Unleashed, more specifically focusing on the pole vaulting mechanic, and this is a stage that grew on me. I originally found it kinda dull, but repeating and getting better times and vaulting on the first spin is hella fun to master, plus the bass and the theme kinda slaps. We finally get to play the 3D portion of Generation Sky Sanctuary in 3-3, and while I don't like the theme, the 3D sections are by far the best part of that level, so I can't really complain. 3-4 is based on another of Unleashed DLC levels, this time from Windmill Isle, completely focused on level grinding. I do like getting all the red rings, does take some involved platforming, but the slower pace of the rail grinding in cyberspace makes this feel duller than it should. 3-5 is the worst cyberspace level in the game, and it's not even close. It's also an Unleashed level, this one focused on drifting, and putting that in a game where A, the drift feels like shit, B, it's not needed at all since the speed you're going at is more than manageable, and C, is not even a dedicated mechanic in the game, it's just a really badly implemented one-off gimmick. If I have more fun avoiding the thing your level revolves around, I think that's a sign that it's not very good. Moving swiftly on to 3-6, we've got another Unleashed level, based on Rooftop Run this time, but this one's fun. It's more so a timing challenge, but you can take skips if you're confident enough in your aerial manoeuvring. And finally, 3-7 breaks the Unleashed streak with the level design taken from the 2D sections of Generation's modern chemical plant. Another timing focused one, but this one more about using the bounce in tandem with the air boost to skip hazards for better times. Knight is our Titan for the island, and I've gotta say, this is my favourite Titan fight in the game. This one just feels far more involved. As the name suggests, it uses a sword and shield, and you can parry its spiky shield back at it to intercept its movements for big damage. Although I will say, Find Your Flame is my least favourite boss theme so far. Don't get me wrong, it is still amazing, but I just personally prefer the other two. But the ending is the best. I can't even describe it, just watch. The fucking anime sword slash where they're fine for a second and then split apart in time with the soft vocals as the song ends. It is just perfection. Afterwards, Sonic lands on Rhea Island, clearly worse for wear, repeating Tails' little careful quip that he did with Amy, although his original cheeky peppy tone is now changed to a shaky, obviously pained one. My man is not doing well. You're tasked with scaling these towers, and originally this was all there was to Rhea. However, the free updates did add some collectibles in the form of the music notes, giving some incentive to explore the island a bit more, thankfully. We've got the theme for the island, as well as variations on the other island themes. Open Your Heart, Green Forest, the GOAT that is Frog Forest from Heroes, Misty Lake from Black Knight, the first act of Emerald Coast from the original Sonic Adventure, Flying Batteries remix from Mania, Stardust Speedway from the US soundtrack of Sonic CD, and last but certainly not least, His World. My only complaint being it's the instrumental E3 version, not the full song. While we've been shutting down the towers, we get flashbacks to the Ancients, their home being destroyed and them using the Chaos Emeralds, which come from their world, to arrive on Earth after being drawn to the Master Emerald. And them all preparing the Titans to fight the threat who ended their planet that's come back for the survivors. All the while, Sonic is becoming more and more corrupted, soon being overtaken completely. That voice that's been guiding him turns out to be the entity that the Ancients sealed away, now free to continue its destructive rampage. Sonic's efforts did mean his pals and Eggman were broken free from cyberspace, and Amy, Tails, and Knuckles willingly go back so Sonic can be restored, making our earlier efforts in the whole cyber corruption subplot feel a bit wasted, really. And after some convincing from Sage, Eggman agrees to help, and we have one more island left to explore. It is Uranus. I thought it was Ouroboros for some reason. I wrote Ouroboros in the script. But no, it's Uranus Island, it's not Ouroboros Island. I think that's kind of a cooler name, but hey-ho. You might be wondering why this island, Rhea and Kronos, used the same environment when Ares and Chaos were much different. This involves some cut content. It's heavily speculated that during development, the Kronos, Rhea and Uranus were one big island, and the final section may have been focused at least partly on a world ship based on cut dialogue.
Sonic, I believe I can access the ship's ruins. Join me. It is what remains of the Ancients' world ship.
However, for whatever reason they decided to split the islands apart, leading to what we see in the final game. The previous islands, bar Rhea, had Sage to talk to as well as Tails, Amy and Knuckles. However, in this one, she's the only character to speak to. Not that I'm complaining, it's nice to see her in this non-hostile point of her character. We have to do another hacking minigame to open up more of the island. Hello again, Nier Automata, how you doing? I'm not sure why, maybe it's because of the larger size of the island, but they have two big fishing portals. I'm not against it, it just feels a bit strange to me. When we get to the 6th Chaos Emerald, we have to do another hacking minigame. This one notably more challenging, but it's still nothing crazy. Getting this emerald will advance you automatically to the Titan fight, so before we get to that, I want to cover the rest of the island first. Now for the collectibles. Along with the Island Coco, the music tracks up for grabs here are more of the ambient themes for all the Starfall Islands, Sky Sanctuary Zone from Sonic and Knuckles, the acoustic rendition of His World they use for the Results theme from Sonic 06, SA1's version of It Doesn't Matter, City Escape, Night of the Wind, Palm Tree Panic from CD, the modern version of Rooftop Run from Generations, and finally 7 Rings in Hand. You may also be wondering what the point is in getting all of the Island Coco and doing the action chain challenges. For the former, you may have noticed in footage Sonic having a bigger boost meter, and this is because each Island Coco you give back increases it slightly, topping off with a total of 4 circles worth of boost energy to mess around with. Granted, the infinite energy you can get from doing the symbol with a side loop makes this feel a bit redundant, but hey, it's better than nothing. The latter is a much cooler reward though. By getting an S rank in all action chain challenges, you get access to the Spin Dash, a much more powerful momentum based tool than the normal or even the power boost, and this is so much fun to mess around with, it's actually insane. Before we move on to the finale though, we've got the cyberspace stages to cover. 4-1 is taken from Metal Harbor, and it's pretty fun, though the ending skateboard section feels watered down somewhat. I think 4-2 takes some cues from Generation's Modern Speed Highway, most obvious in the run down the building bit, but for the most part the level design is original, and it's gotta be one of my favourite cyberspace stages. It's fully 3D, maintains a good sense of flow and speed throughout, and the music is a vibe. 4-3 is completely original from what I'm aware, and it's pretty average in my view. The pulleys break the gameplay flow too much for my liking. 4-4 is also original, and a pretty good level as well. It has the level gimmick in hitting the blue buttons to open up more of the level, but it manages to stay unobtrusive, so it's all good in my book. 4-5 is mostly original with bits of an extra level of Cool Edge in Sonic Unleashed. It's different, but in a good way. It's focused on aerial boosting to get onto the correct paths, which is a nice change of pace. 4-6 is lifted from Generation's classic Chemical Plant, and it's another average one for me. I do like the amount of paths available, but it's a bit slow for my liking. And the rest of the level designs are original to Frontiers, and they're all pretty fun in their own right. 4-7 is mainly based on the vertical progression, and yeah, I like it. 4-8 is more of a platforming puzzle than a proper level, being able to finish in about 20 seconds if you take the correct routes. And finally, we've got an extra level, seeing as this is the final island. 4-9 takes little bits of the starting board bit from City Escape, but the normal level bits in between is completely original. And it's just a plain enjoyable level to cap off cyberspace. With all of the side stuff, including the fishing spots done, it's time to take on the final titan, Supreme. And this is the worst one of the lot, sadly. It's literally just a reskin of Giganto, granted a cool looking one, but a reskin nonetheless. I'm Here, the main theme of the game, is my least favourite boss theme by far too. I still like it, but in comparison to the rest, it's just kind of there for me. I like the gun and the energy wings it gets partway through. Very intentional Evangelion reference, which I'm a big fan of, but it doesn't really do anything with the wings, and the gun is really only used in like cutscene bits. And for a final boss, it's over pathetically fast if you've leveled up your attack stat to any meaningful degree. It is the final boss if you play on anything below hard, but what follows being a cutscene with a QuickTime event if you do. But if you play on hard, like an epic gamer like me, you get something else.
Mortal, you have served your purpose. Now face your end.
Remember the hacking minigame that's been dotted across Frontiers? That's the final boss. Fighting the entity that destroyed the Ancients, the End, as Sage, now controlling the Supreme Titan that we just beat. This has been widely criticised online, but honestly, I really didn't mind it personally. They did just lift the final section from Nier Automata though, like, come on, it's practically a 1-to-1. Maybe that's why I don't mind it, because I like Nier Automata. I need to cover Nier and Nier Automata on the channel, actually. Stay tuned for that. The music and the boss monologuing adds a lot to the fight, I feel, but the huge departure from the style of bosses than the rest of the game goes for, I can understand why people dislike it. In order to defeat the End, Sage sacrifices herself to take it out. Very reminiscent of Shadow's ending from Adventure 2. She's probably the best villain turned ally in my view since him.
Please, look after Father.
And with the gang restored and the threat eliminated, Sonic returns back to Earth, leaving Eggman alone in this honestly very effective little scene with him reaching out to the sky before lowering his arm and looking down. Really tugs at the heartstrings that he's lost his daughter figure. The ending credits song, I don't know how people think of it online, but I really don't like it. Especially so since the ending credits song on normal and easy is like infinitely better in my opinion. Vandalized by 1OK Rock is like leagues better in my view, and it's not even close. Granted, I'm a bit biased since I like that band anyway, plus I find it very funny that they had to make a censored version since the original song has this. I know this couldn't be included in a Sonic game, but just the idea of it tickles me. We get an after credits scene that confirms that Eggman was able to repair Sage, which I don't mind. She's an AI, so yeah, it makes sense that she can be repaired. And I'm guessing they wanted to get ahead of wanting to use the character again. You know, they killed off Shadow and then they realized how popular he was, so they were like, oh shit, we gotta bring him back in the next one. So, since Sage was received well, and I think they knew she was gonna be received well, they were like, no, don't kill her off permanently, bring her back. This concluded Sonic Frontiers when it originally released, but like I've been mentioning, the free updates added more things to do after the credits roll. Oh yeah, I nearly forgot. In the second update, which was themed around Sonic's birthday, you got decals for the island and a costume for Sonic and Pals, along with another song with different pieces of music not seen in the Jukebox mode after the Happy Birthday single. My favourites include Studiopolis Zone from Mania, Headquarters from Adventure 2, Back in Time from Sonic R, and Grand Metropolis. It's a massive shame they weren't included in their own selectable tracks as well. You can't choose the songs in the mix either, and they weren't included as music notes to collect alongside the mix, but I mean, at least they're here in some form, I suppose. It just would have been nice to be able to choose to listen to them without all the other songs playing first. After the credits, we get a message stating the Cyberspace and Battle Rush challenges are available. This came with Update 1, and we get a reward for S-ranking them, as well as New Game Plus, but I won't be covering New Game Plus in this video. Arcade mode is here too. This is just all the Cyberspace challenges as selectable individual levels. You can collect the red rings in here, but sadly there's no reward for getting them or getting an S rank. Something like a playable Supersonic in levels or the open world or a skin like the corrupted Cybersonic would have been dope, but this is just purely bragging rights. The Cyberspace challenges task you with going through all the stages of an island, no red rings here, it's just a pure speed test. With these and Battle Rush, they're organised per island, with Battle Rush ending with the respective island titan. Beating them all unlocks the all-island mode, a gauntlet of every boss in level, and getting an S rank in Battle Rush unlocks Extreme mode, where you're locked at level 1 in all stats for the entire game, and getting an S on all Cyberspace challenges unlocks the power boost seen in the open zone for Cyberspace, which feels a little bit redundant since the Spin Dash eclipses it sadly. Let's get on to the last update. Update 3 brought us the Final Horizon, an alternative take on the events of the last island of the game. Going to this giant ring tucked in the corner of Aronos will activate the segment. Sage suggests that she can return part of the corruption back to Sonic in a stabilised form, so his friends can stay partly cyber and collect the Chaos Emeralds. We start as Amy, and I'd say this is a good call since she plays the most similarly to Sonic. Character progression is very similar, except you now mainly get your levels from Coco, who hold like a bundle of XP. It's notably a ton easier to get your stats leveled up though, especially with the Starfall events, since it's purely Coco, attack and defense seeds. There's no purple coins, meaning no fishing here sadly. All the challenges to reveal more of the map are far trickier too, and I really like this. Since you have to get to the end of the vanilla game to access this, it means Sonic Team can be more confident to put you through harder tests. We've also got individual character themes. Amy's is called Maybe If, and I enjoy it a lot. It's a very different kind of theme for her, but it's fitting still, given the more subdued setting of Frontiers. I had to force myself to progress, because if I didn't, I would have ended up doing all the challenges as Amy, and I need to give the others some time to shine. I do like how these new Coco also open up parts of the map. It means you'll need to engage with all of the new characters to fully explore the island. And I think it says a lot that even now, just the act of moving around doing odd bits is still a lot of fun, especially finishing tasks in unintended ways. Amy discovers that the Coco are hiding the Chaos Emeralds from the end, partly with some help from her tarot cards, and I know a lot of fans have had issues with this, saying it's overused and a hammer is neglected, and whilst I get it to an extent, she could have used it in more attacks, I guess. I think a lot of the criticism is overblown. She does use it in a parry and side loop, stuff you're going to be doing often, so it's not like the hammer's never seen. After Amy manages to track an emerald down, it's Knuckles' turn. We will get through the character's own challenges fully later. It's not like you have one character's portion and then never play them again. Something I was scared of in my first playthrough, so I tried to do everything as Amy, and then I was like, oh wait, no. They give you time as everyone. Playing him is quite interesting for me, as I played this DLC before it received its patches, one of them being with how Knuckles controls, and he feels much more like he should. Being a bit slower, but packing a punch. He retains his glide from the adventure games, however he used to do this flip in midair before starting to glide, and it felt very strange. But that was taken out, and now it feels much closer to the smoothness of the adventure's gliding. Wall climbing makes its return too, usable on red walls and the familiar green ones that Sonic can run across, and it feels good for the most part, but getting knocked off and trying to get on again can feel a little bit disorientating. His theme, Blood Flow, is slightly faster tempo compared to What If, the lyrics emphasising Knuckles' independence and self-confidence, and I like it. It's a nice carryover from his adventure themes in my opinion. Last but not least is Tails, and it's so nice to have multiple playable characters again that have their own feel. It's mad to think the last time this happened was Sonic 06 of all games, nearly 20 years prior. God damn, I feel old. 20 years ago nearly, jeez. Tails is definitely the most unique out of the group to play, and he's got to be my least favourite just on his own. He relies heavily on gadgets, which makes sense, he's always been the tech guy, but him not having a homing attack and having this wrench projectile throws me off massively. I know he's never had a homing attack, but it just feels right for Frontier's platforming, plus Knuckles got one, and he'd never had one before. Let Tails homing attack, come on. His flight returns, however the delay it had never got patched out, which can be useful for correcting yourself, but it had no reason to be this long. Having him in the same place for about like 2 seconds or so before he ascends would be much more appropriate instead. I wish this was patched when they were tweaking Knuckles, but oh well. On a more positive note, his theme, Another Passage, is definitely my favourite out of the new tracks. It used to be my least favourite when I first heard it, but it's majorly grown on me. The instrumental in between is like its peak, I love it. Sonic isn't without things to do here though. While the others are grabbing the Chaos Emeralds, Sonic needs to traverse up these 4 towers, representing the 4 former pilots of the Titans to master his cyber corruption. And these towers are genuinely tough. These are some demanding platforming sections, and to be honest, I love that. I love that the game is getting more intensive for its final section. Once you reach the top, you'll need to complete combat trials within a set time with set stats. The second trial is probably the most infamous. It's difficult to understand what the game wants from you at first, but the strat is to bait it into throwing the top, getting a couple of hits in, parrying, rinse repeat until you win. I enjoyed that they doubled down the Coco pilots mirror Amy, Knuckles, Tails, and Sonic respectively. His new theme, Second Wind, is really pleasant too, probably my second favourite of the new character themes. Probably goes Tails, Sonic's, Knuckles, and Amy's, but I think they're all bops. After Sonic clears the aforementioned trials, we switch back to Amy, who needs to assist the Coco. Knuckles needs to break into cyberspace's defensive so Tails can hack into it, and I like him and Tails interacting. Him giving the latter encouragement is very sweet. Knuckles does his thing and grabs an emerald, leaving Tails to collect the rest. It's nice how much faith the others have in him. It really brings his arc from the main game full circle in my view. Tails is fully hacked through to make the Chaos Emerald accessible, but everyone's corruption is getting worse over time, and now we have to climb the final tower as Sonic. We also learn via a conversation with Sage that the purple portals and Big the Cat aren't actually real. That lake area and him are products of Sonic's memory being visualized in cyberspace, and the real Big is just chilling somewhere completely unrelated to the events of Frontiers. I just found that kind of funny, but part of me also wishes that Big the Cat was involved in this game. He just found himself in cyberspace for a bit and just was completely unaffected. Sonic's also got a new theme, and yeah, it's fittingly atmospheric, but I reckon it's a bit boring. It's my least favourite new character theme by far. It's so dull that I can't be bothered to look up the name. Second Wind is so much better. Now about that tower. This section managed to stir some controversy online. This bit is by far the most difficult section of platforming in the entire game, to the point Sonic Team had to patch in pulleys once you reach certain sections on lower difficulties. And yeah, I did fall a few times, but improvising and trying to land on an earlier section to get yourself back on track is part of the fun for me. But at least they didn't cop out and make it so you can just skip it. You do have to actually complete sections before you're allowed to use those pulleys if you fail, so it's not bad. Once you reach the top, we meet the Master King Coco, and we have to complete his trial. Rematches with the Titans, back-to-back with lowered stats, a set amount of rings, and most notably, changes to the parry system. And everything prior, you could hold parry as long as you like. If something tried to attack at any point, it would just instantly work. With the other characters in the Final Horizon update, the parry does stop after a little bit of time, but it's still a very forgiving time window. I think they, hold it for about 10 seconds or so, but anytime an enemy tries to attack you in that time, the parry will be successful. Here, however, on hard mode, you have, I want to say, about 6 to 8 frames, making the parry akin to things like the FromSoft games, to take an example from something I've covered on the channel. It acts as like an actual parry in other games, basically. I like the idea of this in theory, but in concept it feels messy, because you can tell the Titans weren't designed with a strict parry timing in mind. The tells of when an attack will actually hit aren't conveyed super well. After some outcry, this was patched, increasing the timing window to about double of what it was. On my first playthrough when this released, I was doing this on the harder unpatched version. I managed to climb up to the tower to face the Titans just fine, but the actual challenge was just too much for me, and I eventually had to switch to a more forgiving difficulty after a while, so let's see how I get on this time around. Wish me luck. It took some time to adjust, as the game wants you to engage with it in a very specific way. My first attempt wasn't great. I ended up at night with a single ring, so yeah. He went super and just immediately died. You need to maximize what Supersonic can do, starting with Giganto. You need to side loop it right away, and you should have it pinned for the first phase. The best way to deal damage quickly is to punch and stomp over and over, and the side looped enemies take more damage, so that's important too. Once the second phase cutscene starts, rapid parry to skip the laser QTE, or parry it if you're confident. Side loop it again, and you've got this one in the bag. Wyvern was definitely the trickiest one for me. After a scripted running section, do your best to parry a rocket ASAP. Then it's claws and immediately quick side loop, and that should be enough for the first phase. The second is where it gets tough. Parry the rocket and its claws again, and instead of side looping, just punch and stomp. It'll attack with its tail at some point. Parrying this move is extremely challenging, but helpful if you can. After the rocket ball bit, continue the assault until the ending QTE pops up and you can move on to Knight. Try to predict where it's going to get some hits in, and once the Titan raises its shield, hit it once and dodge, and you can strike its face. Remember this very specific maneuver for later, by the way, it will come up again. Once you hit its face, quick side loop, and that's the first phase done. For the second, try to stay in the center or slightly ahead for the best chance of smacking the shield back at it quickly. Quick side loop again, and that's the Master King Coco Trials completed. Honestly, I'm quite proud of myself for beating it on hard. It only took about 4 or 5 attempts for me this time. Once you pass the trials, Sonic is granted the new Cyber Power, although it's unstable. After this, you can reattempt the trial at any time or move on to the final battle. However, I'm going to complete the remaining Cocos and character interactions that I have left over for the other characters, go over the new cyberspace levels, and then we'll get to the finale. These cyberspace stages are a bit different from everything seen prior. For starters, they're all fully 3D, not a hint of 2D to be found, remixed from previous cyberspace stages, honestly to the point they're unrecognizable from their point of origin and almost rely on the spin dash for exploration. These missions now usually consist of collecting numbered green rings, getting smaller silver rings, finding hidden exits, avoiding mines, or by saving animals by carrying them to specific areas in the level. 4A is remixed from 1-4, although with the focus of these newly added rocket boost capsules in the terrain, it also reminds me of the endless running levels from Sonic Lost World. 4-B, mixing bits of 3-1, is the first example of something that's emphasised quite often in these stages. Unless you know exactly what you're looking for and where said thing is, it's very unlikely you'll manage to finish all missions in one run through. All the collectibles on this one are placed in the lower, slower path, whereas if you want to pass the hologram Tails race, you need to be zipping across the high roads. It's next to impossible to have both, but I don't mind this, it's a good way of encouraging repeat runs, as these are only required if you're in desperate need of lookout Cocos or if you actively want to finish everything like me. Next is 4-C, another rocket boost one with the Tails hologram race added, this time based on 4-5, though this one has a tendency of feeling pretty automated with the amount of rocket boosts. Sonic feels more like a car in a drag race than anything, but I guess it's a nice change of pace for a one-off level. 4-T takes cues from 4-3, and is the first introduction of the miner mechanic, where an exclamation mark will appear over Sonic's head and points. If it goes red, you're right next to an invisible bomb, and honestly, I really dislike this mechanic. It feels like it's just added for the sake of being awkward, but I do like the hidden goal here requiring you to dash on top of half loops to go to ridiculous heights. 4-E is one of my favourites, based on 1-5. Sonic has a bomb over his head, set to go off after about 1 minute and 5 seconds, and you can grab clocks to get more time, and getting the missions done in time can get nail-bitingly close. And it takes a good few tries to understand the skips you can do with the spin dash, which is essential for that S-rank timing. 4-F is remixed from 2-4, and is another hologram Tails race. It mostly follows the lower path as collectibles, higher path is how you beat Tails design philosophy that the other levels do, but to mix it up, the number rings do have some do-or-die pulley platforming off to the side, and we have 2 back-to-back banger themes, even if the vocalist in this one sounds like they're saying Reddit Monster. And now you'll hear it too, you're welcome. 4-G takes bits of 4-2, and where my earlier car analogy comes full circle. Sonic starts off at crawl when boosting, and keeping it held ups the acceleration, like gears on a car. However, keep at top speed for too long or spin dash for more than a few seconds, and it'll quite literally blow up in your face. You only have speed when the level gives you permission in automated segments, and the lowered pace can make other sections feel extremely sluggish to control. 4-H mixes up 4-4 and is probably the toughest level for me personally. There's so many tiny sections on floating angled barrels where I just miss it entirely due to the weird depth perception and I overcorrect myself. The invisible mines make a return, which I'm not a fan of, and the animal saving is particularly tough here. Finally, 4-I is based on 1-7 and is one of my favourite of the new cyberspace levels. Its gimmick is moon gravity, and that combined with the spin dash just makes this level a complete playground to run through. With all that done, it's finally time to conclude the Final Horizon update. It's fucking Supreme again. No changes, just a carbon copy. Are you joking me? Oh, that's new. After clapping Supreme once more, the end comes down to take possession of the Titan itself, with this new orchestrated version of I'm Here playing, and the boss name getting erased with the end replacing it is just the icing on the cake here. It's such a cool presentation. You get a few seconds of trying to attack the boss, but nothing works, until a cutscene plays with Sonic harnessing his newly gained power, turning his eyes blue and having a subtle red energy aura. I'm not sure if this has an official name, the closest ones I've heard being Cyber Supersonic or Supersonic 2. It plays very similarly to the other Titan fights, except now we have the perfect parry. Now, remember that attack dodge maneuver I mentioned earlier when talking about Knight in the Master King Coco trial? Well, if you hit the enemy, it'll simply heal itself back to full health, so clearly the tube attached to it needs to be removed. But how? There just doesn't seem to be a way to do it. That's where this little trick comes in. However, the game never tells you this, directly or indirectly. I actually remember my first time doing this and smacking it over and over to no avail, and randomly getting lucky when pressing buttons. So yeah, I wish that the whole strike dodge to move on to a new target was more clearly conveyed. A massive change to Sonic here though is the animations. Like, these are so fucking clean. Like, my man is standing on business. Some of the little poses he hits look more like something Shadow would do than Sonic, and I'm not complaining. You'll get to a point where the boss will be lying down, and at this point you can side loop the back of it where the gun is holstered and side loop the weapon to give it to Eggman in order to trigger the next phase, complete with I'm Here Revisited, a heavier mix of the song sung by the vocalist of the previous Titan themes, Kellen Quinn, and like, it made I'm Here go from my least favourite to my favourite boss theme for me. It is just perfect. Take a listen. The fight ends with Eggman coming in clutch, using Sonic as a bullet to finish the end off. Only thing that's a shame is not seeing enough of this fully corrupted form. It ends very similarly to the base game, except this time Eggman's on that cliff face with Sage rather than on his own, getting a vocal version of the original final boss theme, I'm With You, for the credits. I do like it, but I wish there was a version with the original instrumental and the vocals like mixed together. Like, that would have been just the best, I think. Sonic Frontiers isn't perfect. Some ideas and mechanics don't feel like they were fully explored. The pop-in can get a bit annoying, especially in the DLC, and the gameplay loop isn't going to be for everyone, but I really enjoyed this game. The simple act of moving around is just too fun for the game not to be appealing to me. The boss fights have been easily some of the best in the series, and Sonic Team's dedication to taking feedback from fans and acting upon it has to be noted here. Like, there's not many devs nowadays who will add an entire campaign with 3 new characters entirely for free. The previous mainline game, Forces, may have been more polished, but to me it felt hollow. Frontiers has passion, and I can't help but respect that and be excited for what Sonic Team are going to cook up next. But I'd like to know what your opinions are on Sonic Frontiers, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and if you want to see more from me, then please subscribe. But I want to thank everyone very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.